Today, we're looking at Diamine Sunset. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine Sunset is a red ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Pilot Metropolitan with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done, and what we see is it just pushes up as a regular old red. But there is a spot just to the right of center that you see a little bit of orange in there. So it's mostly red, only the tiniest bit of orange. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and we do see a slightly darker line across the bottom. Otherwise, the chromatography looks very much the same, and the orange that pushes up is a little bit harder to see. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it seems to do okay, but looking at the left side of the lowercase h makes me worry about losing too much. So this is to me a coin toss because it's only in one specific spot that I see some real blowout happening of the writing. But blowout in writing is something that I worry about as a note taker. Water's reactivating and lifting some of the ink, not all of the ink. We see a lot of ink left behind. We don't see any of the white of the paper coming through, so it's only reactivating the top layers. A lot of this ink has managed to make its way into the paper. Surprisingly for me, the pen flush didn't do much more than water did. I really expected pen flush to completely remove this, but it doesn't. A lot of ink is still holding in place. In fact, you can't see the dots of the Rhodia dot paper coming through, so it's really not breaking up what managed to start getting into the paper. 1/3 bleach solution, which I did not need to use to clean this out of my pen, but 1/3 bleach solution does completely obliterate this ink, leaving the paper pure white. You easily see the dots from the paper. Now, if you had to use the 1/3 bleach solution, just make sure that you flush it with water after to make sure you don't rust your pen. For the inks I've tested, I found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine Sunset has a viscosity of 3.49, making this a pretty dry ink, very dry. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine Sunset, despite being such an incredibly dry ink, has a normal and average dry time of 17 seconds. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It's 11 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine in the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, and it took 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we got none. In the smear test, you could probably recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, really minor ghosting, very minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 24 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it.
And the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. And I'm just looking at the tone difference right here for white paper to cream paper, and I'm not seeing any tone difference at all. None when we go to the Rhodia. Rhodia has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 13 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show it's no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. The smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. So white lines paper. Now there is some spot bleeding. Considering that this is not really a paper for fountain pens, it doesn't do well with liquid ink. There's some spotting, but I don't think it would stop you from using the back of the page. Don't put it down stupid thick like I do on the scrubby. Of course it comes through there, but here, this doesn't seem too bad, especially for a cheaper produced paper. It doesn't touch the page underneath, and it doesn't make the back of the page unusable. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 2 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. This is Strathmore writing paper. It's a nice laid paper. It has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, it has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 5 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And a smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. So here's the thing. I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the tones of these inks. Unchanged. It's a beautiful color. And it's completely unchanged for having different tone background papers. This is a beautiful ink that is boring, very predictable. And it's nice for that reason. It seems like no matter what nib or what paper you put it on, you get that same great tone. This is P. Berger. It's a student grade paper. We get a lot of heavy bleeding into the page, but not through the page. It does not touch the page underneath, but I do not think you could use the back of the page. But it's not really full ghosting. It's just bleeding deep in. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 3 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, performs wonderfully except for all that bleeding. 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. And that is all that I have for the writing.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine Sunset, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I wanted a nice green. I went with Robert Oster's Green Green. An ink so nice, he named it twice. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine Sunset? This is another ink that by name I probably would have just passed over if I was only getting a handful of samples to try out. I would have thought yellow with some orange. This is very red with some orange. This is a beautiful red. Now it does not get a lot of shading, but the color, the tone that you get is truly standout and magnificent. Don't let the names of some of these inks fool you. Thanks for watching.